The 2007 New Zealand Nuclear Test Veteran Study, a cytogenic analysis by Dr. Rowland of the Massey University, showed DNA damage to the New Zealand nuclear test veterans. 3 times the rate of translocations were found, yet the UK and New Zealand governments ignore the findings. We explore the evidence as to why this important research has been ignored. The UK government publish a nuclear test veteran fact sheet on their official website. The document states that the 2007 study has yet to be peer reviewed. This is a lie. It has been peer reviewed and published in mainstream scientific literature. It's more lies and deceit from the UK government. The study was published and is accessible under the title Elevated Chromosome Translocation Frequencies in New Zealand Nuclear Test Veterans, Cytogenic and Genome Research. The study was reviewed by the Radiation Protection Division of the Health Protection Agency in 2007. It concluded that the results from the study indicate a statistically significant 3-fold increase in stable translocations to radiation exposure. A copy of the article was published in the journal Cytogenetic and Genome Research in 2008, so it has been peer-reviewed and published in reputable journals. So why has the NTV fact sheet not been updated? The article concluded that the potential confounding factors leads us to the view that this highly elevated frequency is most likely attributable to radiation exposure. Further clarification might be attained by a similar study on British and Fijian participants in Operation Grapple. Nick McClellan, in his book Grappling with the Bomb, dedicates a chapter to Dr. Rowland and the study. The text shown is taken from Grappling with the Bomb, Britain's Pacific H-bomb tests by Nick McClellan, published in 2017 by ANU Press, the Australian National University of Canberra, Australia. The NRPB study, which the government uses as a political shield to answer any questions relating to the health of the veterans, has been challenged by many legal and scientific advisors. In 1999, a study by Sue Rabbit-Rolfe of Dundee University reported an excess of multiple myeloma on a group of 2,500 test veterans, with 45 cases within the 2,500, when the UK average is 3 per 100,000. 30% of the men in her sample had already died from cancers which were pensionable in the United States. As part of this research, Ruth Mackenzie gathered information from 235 New Zealand sailors, including 97 who had died. Of 443 reported conceptions, there were 99 miscarriages, 16 stillbirths, and 2 were aborted. 2 died soon after birth because of severe deformities, and 25 others died in early childhood. Yet these studies are ignored, and the UK government only quote the NRPB figures, a flawed study. When Rowland's team had completed the study, they found that the translocations were 3 times higher in the veterans as a group than the control group. This result is indicative of veterans incurring long-term damage as a consequence of performing their duties relating to Operation Grapple. The results surprised Dr. Rowland and his team, comparing the results to what was discovered in workers involved in the cleanup of Chernobyl, meaning there was severe genetic damage. Scientists do not often engage in hyperbole, but without exaggeration, this result is extraordinary. The report held the view that the genetic damage was caused by exposure to harmful radiation, probably through ingestion of ionizing particles during the course of the veterans' participation in the series of bomb blasts known as Operation Grapple. Even after the study was peer-reviewed, which the NTV fact sheet denies, Dr. Rowland was well aware that research by colonials would not be warmly welcomed by some in London. Dr. Rowland was particularly heartened by the comments made by Dr. David Brenner, who is unquestionably one of the top scientists in this field. Dr. Brenner, who was the director of the Columbia University Center for Radiological Research and Higgins Professor of Radiation Biophysics, was called as an expert witness in the long-running court case for the veterans, stating in his opinion that the Rowland M-FISH study provides extremely strong evidence that the nuclear test veterans have a statistically increased burden of chromosome aberrations compared to the controls. The measured aberration rates in the matched control group were what one would expect from individuals of their age, indicating that the methodology, precision, and accuracy of the 2008 Rowland M-FISH study was appropriate. Yet the MOD officials seemed to know better than Dr. Brenner, dismissing the findings. Freedom of Information requests provided information on a meeting with the nuclear test veterans, where the study was discussed. Agreement was made that there was no point in replicating the study in the UK. They accept that the report was already on the table, and that any new work is not anticipated to tell us anything further about the possible link between participation in nuclear tests and subsequent ill health. But why did the representatives agree on this? If the study was already on the table, why is it being ignored? The UK government still argues with the scientists and their expert opinions. Dr. Bremner's report states that atomic bomb survivors exposed in 1945 in the dose range from 5 to 150 millisieverts and followed up for many decades show statistically significant increased risks of both cancer incidence and cancer mortality. Atomic bomb survivors who received high doses have proportionately lifetime cancer risks. The UK and New Zealand governments are reluctant to accept the political and financial implications of the results of this study. Immediately after the publication, the New Zealand government stated that they did not accept any research conducted on the New Zealand test veterans. In 2009, an expert panel of 6 academics reviewed the research. The initial report of the Ministerial Advisory Group on Veterans' Health confirmed that the M-FISH study did demonstrate an increased number of stable translocations, and from the results it was reasonable to conclude that the nuclear test veterans were exposed to ionizing radiation, but it was not possible to determine the exposure dose. The Massey University M-FISH study results do provide evidence that the nuclear test veterans were exposed to ionizing radiation. So why did the UK government not acknowledge these findings? Then, in 2013, the New Zealand government changed their stance. A document, only released to veterans in 2017, now serves as the New Zealand government's official position, even though the report is unsigned and has no public acknowledgement of the author. The report states, the casualty for statistically significant elevated frequencies of some chromosomal anomalies in exposed veterans, which may indicate long-term damage, could not be attributed to radiation alone. The 2013 document is full of confusion and glaring inaccuracies. The most damning comment made in the 2013 document is that the New Zealand government does not supply any case for the veterans' offspring to be studied. Even if the government could not bring itself to admit that the cause may be attributed to radiation exposure, they seem to accept that the veterans had incurred long-term genetic damage while performing their duties during Operation Grapple. So why not study their offspring? On scientific grounds as well as moral grounds, this refusal is a miscarriage of justice. Yet despite this evidence, no study on the children has ever been undertaken. The Massey study results are not quoted by the MOD, despite many peer reviews and citations. In 2010, David Cameron commissioned an independent health needs audit that found that 83% of veterans have developed between 2 and 9 serious long-term illnesses since their service on Christmas Island, with some suffering more than 10 illnesses. Another study in 2014 reported significant excess levels of miscarriages, stillbirths, infant mortality and congenital illnesses in the British veterans' children relative to both controlled children and expected numbers. A copy of this presentation and accompanying documents have been sent to the MOD for comment and to update their fact sheet. The MOD state that they are always open to new evidence and will give very careful consideration to the study, its implications for the health of the UK test veterans and their responsibilities towards them. But how much evidence does the MOD need? How many experts are needed to tell them about the DNA damage? The time is now to examine the children. Accept the findings of the Massey study. The DNA of the veterans has been altered. There is no denying this. They have been exposed to ionizing radiation. The Brunel study might provide further information in the UK after their findings are published. So do the right thing, Prime Minister. Accept the exposure and recognise these men. Look them in the eye. This presentation was brought to you by LabRats International and Dominic Rika UK in association with a Medal for Heroes, a Daily Mirror campaign. Thank you to Nick McClellan for his help with this presentation. His book can be downloaded from press.anu.edu.au/publication/series/Pacific/grappling-bomb. Please share this presentation with your communities. Thank you.